Yeah, let me change it. How do I change this?
And you click on it. Did you trust me? Really?
I think it's.
Did you trust me?
Good evening, everybody.
Hi, John.
Hello.
So John, the invitation said 6:45. Is that not?
I always set it up 15 minutes early just for people to get, connected if they want to, but
Okay.
legally the meeting starts at 7.
All right.
Hello.
Whoa.
Hello.
There it goes.
Hi, Desiree.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I guess we're just waiting for Mary.
Is Nancy going to be here?
Nancy, I believe, is going to be here. She actually was out of power,
Oh, yes.
and I told her she could come over here if she didn't get power.
Yeah, my husband called at about 3 and said the power was out. So I don't know if it was all of Tuxedo Park.
It wasn't here.
I lost power.
Yeah.
Okay, and got it back.
Yes.
I mean, maybe the thing is that the meeting agenda is 7, and I didn't, quite frankly, I didn't even realize that John set up 6:45 myself. So I was figuring it would be 7.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the official start, but John noted that he likes to give everyone time to get on and get connected. So
I mean, I could give Nancy a call and see. I said, I think Mary said she was going to get on because she texted me and said she was going to be on. So
Yeah, Mary was having trouble waiting to get on, and so she should be on, but she had the same problem we all were. She couldn't get on because we were waiting.
Oh.
So she emailed you and everybody.
I don't show anybody waiting at this point. And over the last 2 months, I've set up the meetings so I do not have to invite you to them. You can log on before me, as some people did tonight.
Oh, is that right?
really, because it said the host wasn't letting us in.
Yeah, we were
Right.
on 6:45 and then we couldn't get in the meeting
Well-
either. And then we got kicked off, so.
Okay, so maybe I have to log in as the host, but once I'm logged in, you come in automatically. Okay,
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
okay.
So John, it's all your fault.
It is. It is. Yeah, and part of the
As
fault-
always.
part of the reason is I was at the village office till 6 o'clock. That's why.
Oh, come on.
Ah,
Oh, no.
Check the video.
Check the video. Okay.
Good for us.
did you send a note to Mary to try now?
No, I thought it was a touch screen.
I mean, I can email her.
Okay. the BZA meeting of May 5th.
For Christ's sake.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now,
Damn.
Elise, did we close the meeting, the public part of the meeting at the last one? Do we need to open it, or is it?
It's continued.
It's
It's
continued.
continued. So the public hearing, you're talking about the first application Schumacher?
First application, yes.
Yes, that's been continued. So the public hearing is still open for
What
that.
happened here?
Okay, Karen, or, do you want to go through what changes were made to the
God
drawing?
Damn thing.
Sure. Can somebody share the screen with me?
Hmm. You should be able to share your screen.
Okay, here we go.
Mhm. Can I just say, Mr. Hayes, we can see you and hear you. So you
Yes.
know.
Yeah, that's why I'm cursing at
We
you.
can't see
Right,
anything.
We're back with you now. Okay,
Good.
we're all set.
Got it. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we went over last time how unusual this property is, being only 1 acre in Tuxedo Park with a very small, small area where a pool would actually be allowed within this 50-foot setback. We showed how we're trying to keep with the character of the park by designing a swimming pool that is very, that in a garden room, aesthetically pleasing. It's on the site of an old tennis court, so there's no grading that's needed. So there's the disruption to surround, there's minimal grading. You have to, of course, dig the hole for the swimming pool. But it's not gonna, there's not gonna be any disturbance, no, high, no big earth moving activities. And so what we did, what we felt comfortable with, and to not spoil the idea of a room, so let me just show you the intended, the photograph of what we're intending. I think I have it on here. So we're intending, I don't have it on here, but it's in my pictures. Okay, so we're intending to create a complete garden room. And as you can see from the photographs, this is looking back towards the house. This is the front of the house. You won't see any of the swimming pool. This is looking from the driveway side. And then now this picture here is looking towards the neighbor where we're requesting the variance, the largest variance. As you can see, the green giant arborvitaes are growing very well and providing a lot of screening. This is looking back towards the other neighbor where we are requesting, I believe at 30, I will get those figures for you in a minute, 32-foot variance. And then this is looking back up where the swimming pool will be right in this area. So as you can see, it makes a very nice garden room. And if we push it any more over this direction, we feel that it creates more of a suburban look and not in keeping with a palette that we have to use. So let me show you on the location map really quickly again. The Shoemaker, the contextual map is actually better. Here's the full Shoemaker property with the swimming pool superimposed in the approximate area. We drew this, we provide this drawing to illustrate that their neighbors' driveways are on both sides where we are requesting a variance. So it's not, we feel that that's another mitigating factor, that there's no outdoor recreation areas nearby. So we felt that was another mitigating factor. So what we have proposed to do is cut the swimming pool back one more foot to 15 feet, which is a very narrow swimming pool, but we still think it'll look really good. We also had a lounging area over here that the shoemakers decided to give up in hopes that providing a nice, simple swimming pool would encourage the board to grant the variance. As you can see, we're requesting 32-foot variance from this property line here and 26-foot variance from this property line here. And that, so we went from asking for a 50% variance to a 48% variance. So that is the big change. And just for those of you that, actually for Mary who wasn't here last time, we kind of put the tennis court in an approximate location to just give you an idea where the court was. And the reason why it's important to know this is the fact that it's flat already and there's not a lot of destruction or disruption that's going to be required to kind of just slip this swimming pool into this location. So that's about it. We are intending to, provide more planting to make more of a garden room. Here's some shrubs over here, again, to really make this its own special space. So that is the presentation.
Now, the other question I have too is you actually have added another variance request.
Died.
Excuse,
You
I'm
added a variance request for the spa.
No,
No, it was there before.
it was there
who was
before.
there before?
Well, but it wasn't listed as a variance, and the spa before was a smaller spa, was a 9x7 spa, and now it's an 11x7 spa. And you have listed on your drawing that it's 26 feet setback, but on your table you have it as a 25-foot setback.
Oh,
So
that's
you have a
incorrect.
mistake
I'm
on your
sorry.
drawing.
It's 26 feet, you can see. I'm sorry, here's a 25-foot line, this blue line here. I apologize for that.
Okay,
It's
because on the drawing itself, it has it as 25 foot.
Okay, well, it's clear. I just want to show you it's clearly not. It's here's the 25-foot line right here. So after we marked out the the swimming pool, we felt that the larger spa really looked better. And you can see we mapped out the pavement patterns. These are the things that are nice to be able to do to really make a project work nicely. We're gonna just have 2x3 bluestone, and it just works so nicely around. We have pretty much solid pieces of bluestone everywhere. So that's one of the reasons, just to make it work with the pattern. So because we thought that would look really sharp.
You also show fencing, two types of fencing on your drawing now, whereas the back fencing is wood, all right, where the pool equipment is and this emergency generator. That's a 6-foot high wood fence, correct?
Correct.
And the fences that are on the side are a metal PVC fence.
They're intended to basically be see-through because we have all these arborvitaes here and there's no need for additional screening up higher. So they're intended just to be see-through.
Okay.
And again, we do have to go through the BAR too to make sure everything's up to snuff with them as well. So.
Yeah, I don't assume that the pool equipment and the generator really comes under, and I could ask John, those are not items that are considered to be accessory structures?
Correct. We haven't required utilities to comply with the same setbacks as a structure. The BAR obviously will require some detail as far as hiding them from view and also trying to make them as quiet as possible for the neighbors.
Yeah. Mary, I know you were not here before. Do you have any specific questions on?
Yeah, I just have a couple. I know the Huntingtons responded and said, no problem, or they were supportive, whatever. Did the Smiths? Because that's really along their side. Did they respond? Did they get?
They're renters, Mary.
The property owners were notified, and I had some
Realized they
communication.
were renters. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I notified the property owners. I had some communication with them a few weeks before the last BZA meeting. And my last communication with them is that they had no issue.
And is there a magic, Karen, is there a magic? I mean, how did you come up with 15 or 16 by 47 or 15 by 46?
So
as
we
opposed to
felt
20 by 60 or whatever?
we felt we felt that the long thin pool worked nicely with the shape that we have, and we also tried to meet the zoning variance. We tried to minimize the zoning variance as much as possible. We actually wanted to be closer to this side yard because it would make it a little more symmetrical, but we didn't want to ask for more of a zoning variance. So we felt this was the nicest shape, and we painted it outside, and that's when we revised the spa and made it a little bigger because it looked a lot nicer when it was a little bit bigger. And we felt since we're already asking for the 26 feet, it wouldn't be any different to ask for 26 feet for this spa. And it just so happened to work so nicely with the pavement. We made sure that's one of the driving forces too. But we really feel like it creates a nice space. We have like 10 feet of grass between where we are thinking about, we most likely will put some kind of hedge, like a barberry hedge, to separate this space from their dining space. So we feel like this will create a beautiful space.
And you've already said, and I'm sure it was asked last time about drainage. There are no drainage because it was an existing tennis court. I mean, I know the property really well. I walk by it every day.
Yeah, so we will make sure there's no drainage
Yeah.
issues at all. But we're gonna just cite the swimming pool up a little higher, and we'll a little higher than surrounding grade, and it'll sheet flow. There's plenty of space for it to sheet flow into all different, all the directions. So we're not concentrating any drainage in any spot at all. And like we reported before, there was a tennis court here already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question about that. I don't know if it's Jake or John. Is there any grandfathering here because it was a tennis court previously?
No. There's no grandfathering.
But when they put the tennis court in, would they have had to get a variance at that time?
Even if they did, that variance would have been specific to the tennis court. Once a tennis court is removed, the variance is gone.
Okay.
Area variances are specific to the structures.
Okay.
And I believe the tennis court was built before the adoption of the new zoning codes.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a variance being granted for the tennis court. I don't even really think, because the tennis court, I believe, was kind of a clay structure. I don't even know if it would be considered a structure, with the exception of the post to hold the net.
Okay.
And I guess I can't think of I know there was one pool or two pools, but one that was approved actually over near Jake, some property that I think you owned originally, above where Palatacci is and where Serene used to live. There was a pool that we approved there, but I don't think there was any variant. There was some variance.
Well, the other one that we kind of found was, interestingly enough, is the Whitney's, which is now the Huntington property.
Right.
Right.
Okay, and the Huntington property, they came before the zoning board in 1996. And they had an application in front of the board, and they were looking for, initially, they were looking for a 50% variance that after several meetings, they then reduced it to a 40% variance.
Mhm.
And, you know, I have to say that that was on a lot that is 3.1 acres, not 1.1 acres. So, you know, it is, you know, I am concerned about the extent of the variance. I mean, the whole structure is in the setback. And, you know, quite frankly, we kind of asked the applicant to come to take a look at it and come back. And, you know, basically they reduced the pool from 16 feet to 15 feet and the length from 47 feet to 46 feet. But in essence, it's the same length because they just shifted it down farther. So, you know, I have to say that you know, I mean, one of kind of our goals is to try to minimize the variance and, you know, at this point, I don't think the applicant has really done that. All right. That's
And
just,
Jake, I'm just going to jump in here. You are correct, but what we did do was our homework aesthetically. And again, I'm not daring you to do something where you create a precedence that you guys are uncomfortable with. That in mind, I do take a bit of offense to the notion that we didn't do something. We did a lot. You know, if it doesn't conform to what you're looking for, I'm not going to win this, you know, application. But the reality is, if we started moving this pool, you know, in other places, if we were to make it smaller, I don't want to create a blemish on the park or on my property. So, you know, that's kind of the needle we're trying to thread as well.
no, I agree. We're both trying to thread some needles here. Okay. And, you know,
And we may disagree, you know, with the outcome, but like, we're doing it not for an extra foot to take it away if it was aesthetically pleasing. Frankly, I don't care. But because we weighed out the aesthetics of how it's going to affect both our neighbor, us, and the park, this is why we're coming back how we are, and we're giving up the patio in the back as well. So, you know, to say that I would suggest that we are giving things, but we're not going to give things that have an adverse effect on the aesthetic of the park, our neighbors, and our neighborhood.
And please be aware that it's such a small property that giving up 1 foot is much different on a 1 acre property than a 3.1 acre property. It's hugely different. So we did give up something substantial for the size of this property.
well, I don't really kind of buy that argument.
We've
Okay.
got a different set of guidelines there then. So, and if
You know, I mean, the reality is that's a small piece of property. So in essence, you should have a small pool. Okay. You know,
again, I'm not arguing with aesthetics. We are appealing to you to give us a variance. You know, this is where it gets subjective.
Jake,
Yeah.
Jake, if I may.
Yes.
I think it's wonderful they've given up the patio because whether it needed a variance or not, it's just more constructed space in that area. I wonder if they could, is it possible? I know you talk about this garden area, but just to move it a little bit closer to your house? Move the whole pool.
Well, but then you're
So-
messing with the symmetry of the yard overall. So by placing it where it is now, it is closer to the house already. We had, you know, originally wanted to ask for a much, like, not much, but a larger variance on that side. But so we're already as close to the house as it really feels appropriate. You'd have to take out the birch tree by coming closer, I think, right, Karen? Like
Yes.
we're losing
Yeah.
2 trees
And-
instead of just the dogwood that's kind of sick. So we felt it was okay to remove that tree at this time.
And it would feel very awkward to imagine just having the whole thing here and this big lawn here and no lawn or anything there. it feels so awkward. And that's, again, that's why we painted it for everybody to see how it just fits so beautifully in the space. It would be a shame to do something against a good design just because we have to get these numbers in line. And I know, I understand that's very important. But the thing is, it should be taken into consideration that this is such a small lot. It's half of what it's supposed to be in order to have, like, for these variances to make sense. So it's a very unique situation, being that it's so small. And the way the front yard is, if you look, the yards are so unusual. This is the front yard here, this is the side yard here, and this is the rear yard. It's such a unique piece of property that I don't think that it's so unique that we really tried hard to get something that would be beautiful. And I know this will look like it's always been there and it's meant to be there if it's put in this position, in this location. If we move it, it'll look awkward, and that's just to get a number. That has nothing to do with, I think.
Karen, if
But
I could
anyway.
jump in, we've had ample conversations with our direct neighbor who's very much in favor of this. Again, it's not his decision, it's not our decision, it's your decisions to see if, this makes sense. But, the reality, and I'll be the broken record here to reiterate it, we will not do anything aesthetically to make us look like a blemish, for the park. It's not just for our property, because we all live in the same community and we all want an aesthetic that is appealing to our neighbors and appealing to other people who come to the park. We believe this is, and as I said in the letter, the notion of this board in my mind is to kind of look at exceptions. But if I'm incorrect about that, then, I'm incorrect.
So I just want to chime in here. I think it's a beautiful plan. I think that it's an unusual property. And as we discussed in the last meeting, each property is treated differently, right? Each property is unique. I think what when you look at a pool, especially one like this, it has such a low profile. So even though the applicants are asking for a variance, it's not a structure that's protruding out of the ground. So it's not like they're building an addition on their house, which would be much more obtrusive. It actually goes very well in the landscape. And so that paired with the neighbors not having, in fact, one of the neighbors is very much in support. I think that this variance makes sense for this application.
Gary?
Well, I think Dave's point about it not being obtrusive and not being a structure as opposed to, something that's just basically flat, makes a lot of sense to me. The size of the lot, unfortunately, is the size of the lot, and that's not their fault. And it's just the way the park has been chopped up in a number of different situations like this. I'm not sure I totally agree about this issue about it being a blemish on the village, but I'll reserve on that point. I'm not sure if we were at 48%, if it was 46%, I'm not sure that would make that much difference one way or the other. And we're not going to ask them to put in a baby pool. So, I kind of understand the argument and the position. So I guess I would be, in favor of going forward with it.
Nancy?
Well, I was the one who voted against the Whitneys, as you all remember. So, but I don't think that I want to do that again. I think, I'm sure that they'll keep it. It'll be low profile, as Dave said, and obviously it's a pool. And I think they'll be cognizant of their neighbors, and it's just the pools tend to be noisy, and I just think, you know, they have to be respectful of their neighbors, even though their neighbors aren't complaining. Well, particularly the ones who are only renting. Of course, they're not going to complain. But I think that these people seem to be careful and considerate, and let's hope that that's the case.
Mary? Oh, I guess Mary's on mute.
Can
Oh.
you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry. I wasn't at the first meeting, and so here I am sort of jumping into the second meeting. And having been the longest serving member of the board in the history of the park, I have to say that I'm completely troubled by Karen's comments. You know, the board does not exist to meet numbers. And for you to say that what we're arguing for is 46% or 47%, frankly, is insulting. And I really think that to demean the purpose of this board, which is to work together with everybody that comes before it, the neighbors and the community on behalf of the community, if in fact, as the people owners putting in the pool say, they don't want to do it as a blemish on the community, and you know, they really think of the community putting in this beautiful symmetrically designed pool by Karen. Okay, I buy what I've heard, but the attitude is quite troubling to me. So I understand completely that you want to have a beautiful pool and a beautiful place and the symmetry and the design, and you don't want the pool too close to your house. There are loads of reasons for that have nothing to do with the design. And frankly, maybe if you'd started closer to the outside where you really wanted it, you might have gotten it. So, I mean, I very much applaud the work, the thought on your side that's gone into this to make a beautiful design. And I understand that pulling out a patio, if it was there, which of course, you know, I don't see it there now. So that's, you know, that's great. But I really do think that the spirit and the comments that especially Karen made about that we're just here for numbers is really demeaning to the entire community. So with that, if the other people are very much for it, I agree that it's not obtrusive, and I'm a neighbor, and I walk by it all the time, and I think you keep your house, I mean, it's just a lovely house. Frankly, you have a wonderful dog. I just love your dog. And you're wonderful people, but I'm just shocked at, I must say, and I can say that because I'm in the process of resigning in the next couple months, but you must know, I
You can
must,
let it all out now.
I must,
Hey.
I'm shocked, like especially Karen's comments.
Yeah, I concur with Mary. There's a little bit of attitude here going on, not the applicants, but the landscape architect.
Well, I apologize. I
But of
don't mean to
course,
demean the
that's
board.
not, but of course, that's not why we're here. We're here to evaluate the project in a professional way, which we will. And, you know, if Jake wants to wait and have us all talk it again and come back, whatever Jake wants to do, I think that we all think it's a beautiful, you know, we all understand your efforts, Shoemakers.
I have, you know, like, I think kind of my, you know, we asked you as an applicant to go back and take a hard look at it and see if there was any way to mitigate the variances requested. And I quite frankly understand the 15 feet and the closest to the house and the perspective on it, the property. Kind of what I don't get and if I was in your shoes and I wanted to kind of at least make an effort to try to bring it more in line with the variances, I would have made the pool a little shorter, all right? To make the pool 1 foot shorter and then to make it 1 foot narrower kind of was like an insult to us, quite frankly. All right. It was kind of like, oh, this is what we're going to give you. And I have to admit, I was, when we're talking about attitudes here, I was really personally put off by that.
Am I allowed to just comment or no?
Yeah, you could comment.
I certainly don't want to dig my own grave here, but the reality is, from our perspective, we're giving you what we think is appropriate for the house. And we're not doing this to offend you. We're not doing it because we haven't done our homework or how you'd like to stipulate it. We're doing it because we believe this is the best version of it. And we appreciate that a lot of the board seems to appreciate the aesthetic of what we're trying to do. We're circling back, to, what the function is here. And the function is to see if, you guys feel like this is acceptable. So, and we're respectful of that. We're not trying to be difficult to that regard. We're just presenting what we believe is the best for our house and thus for our community.
I'm sure you understand that we're also trying to do the best for you. And that when you come before the zoning board, we have to look at precedents and people that follow you. And the risk that we always have, which if it's up on a hill or wherever it's located, we have to look at the future. And if people appear to say, oh, don't worry about it, just ignore it, 50%, just ignore the variance, doesn't matter, then the zoning laws begin to have no teeth.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate
That's
that
the real
the community
reason.
is
It's
here for
not
appeals.
because anyone's insulted.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Mary, and I also appreciate that, you guys are on a board and you're doing this for a specific reason, and I appreciate those reasons. And we're asking for an exception based on our property, so.
Mary, I think one thing you missed last meeting, we talked about precedent, and Elise kind of talked through, it's really not, each property is on its own. So you're not really setting a precedent by making a judgment on this property because it's unique.
Yes, but Dave, you must remember, everybody who is asking for a variance, they go through the old files and they look to see what percentage of variance people got. They find isn't that true, John? They find comb the files to look.
Maybe Elise should repeat what she said at the last meeting.
I'd be happy to weigh in here. I would just like to set the table a little bit in terms of what the BZA's job is. And the BZA does have a very important function, not to just grant relief where it's necessary and the board finds that it's appropriate, not to just grant relief from the zoning law, but to also consider that the zoning law itself is there for a reason. So to the point where the board is advised very specifically under the law that it, in trying to allow owners to use property in a way that the owner wants, you also have to bear in mind that that use and that variance has to be the minimum to allow that variance, that variation, that use. I think in terms of precedent, it is true that every property is unique. And when the courts look at decisions by a zoning board, what they don't like to see is a property or the same property being denied variances that were granted on that property or substantially similar properties for no good reason. So I am much less concerned about setting precedent so long as the reasons for granting or denying or modifying, the applicant's variance is set forth in the code or is set forth in the deliberative process that this board goes through. The only issue I would bring up honestly about this particular application is the fact that it is completely and wholly within the side yard setbacks. So if the board decides to grant these variances as they're being asked to do now, we would point to the process that's gone on. Basically, it's a small lot. Any pool in that area is going to need a variance. So I would just ask the board to deliberate very carefully about and distinguish why it would grant these substantial variances that are wholly within the setbacks. The setbacks are there for a purpose. It is a small lot, but there's no consideration in the required yards for smaller lots. So the board simply needs to decide what it wants to do, grant the minimum variance necessary, and distinguish this property from all others that want these types of variances. And I think you've done a good job of that, by the way. I mean, I'm not concerned at this point with precedent.
I guess at this point, we would just go through the factors, although we've gone through them once before, and then the board would then make a decision whether we're prepared to vote. Elise, correct?
Yes, I would do that. And a lot of, you've discussed it, many of the factors in a more informal way, but I believe it's always good to go back and reiterate the comments that you've made specific to each factor. And of course, the first one is, will it create an undesirable change in the neighborhood?
Well, of course, it would not make an undesirable change in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And the second factor is whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than an area variance, okay? And because of the size of the parcel and the setback, all right, there really isn't another way to do it except by reducing the size of the pool.
Or pushing it toward the house.
Or move it towards the house. So there are other methods, but it's not methods that are desired by the applicant. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, and then obviously in this particular case, it is substantial, and that the whole pool lies within the setback. And so obviously it is substantial. And we have asked the applicant to see what they could do by reducing it. And, we've gotten, a reduction of 2% on the one side. Whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or on impact in the physical environments and the conditions of the district, I really don't see where environmentally this would have an issue. It sits on a flat piece of property. And whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals, but not necessarily preclude the granting of the variance. And I think we've all kind of discussed this, all right, at numerous points. And, one of the things that I kind of just have to say is when we move into the village of Tuxedo Park, all right, we know that there are constraints in the zoning laws on the properties, and to a certain degree, what's one of the reasons that we move here. And the applicant must be reasonably and accept those two. So
So Jake, I just have one thing. If I do the square footage, it looks like they reduced it just to the size of the pool by about 8%, if I have my numbers right. You mentioned 2% or something like that. I think it's.
Well, no, it's a 2% on the variance.
Right. But they did reduce the size that they requested by about 8%.
The pool itself.
Correct.
Well, it would be from 15 feet to, from 16 feet to 15 feet, and from 47 feet to 46 feet.
Yeah, so it was 752 square feet down to 690.
Right. I guess, are we prepared to vote?
Well, first, Mr. Chairman, the public hearing is still open. So
Oh.
you would ask if anyone from the public has anything to say. And if once doing that and hearing any public comments, you would have a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the public that has anything else to say? All right, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Are we prepared to vote on the applicant?
I am.
Yeah,
Okay, go around, Gary,
yes,
David,
Yes.
Nancy?
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, you need a motion. You
Oh,
need
I
someone.
thought I
to
made a
make-
motion.
You made the motion. Who seconded the motion? And is the motion to approve the variances?
Okay,
Or-
sorry.
yeah,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variances.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Well, okay, then you'll do a roll call. I'm sorry. You make the motion, and the motion is either to approve or disapprove, or approve with modifications. You made a motion to approve. It was seconded by, I think Dave, was
Yep.
Dave? Okay.
Yeah.
And then you would ask for a roll call, yay or nay.
Roll call, nay, yay or nay?
Yay. Yay.
Yay.
Yay,
Yay.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's approved.
The motion is approved.
Now, I would just ask the board to, are there any, as this goes back to the BAR, do you want me to include anything in the resolution that this board specifically wants the BAR to look at? I don't know, noise or anything like that, because you can condition your approval on anything that might have to do with the actual variances themselves. You may or may not have any conditions whatsoever. So I guess I, just to be very specific, when I'm listening, I'm hearing pools can be noisy. The BZA would just like the BAR to make sure as they go through their deliberations that noise is mitigated to the greatest extent possible. We're granting these variances to allow these, and they're substantial. So in doing so, we want to make sure that the neighbors are further protected by noise or whatever it is you might decide to do. Or you may say nothing and just assume that the BAR is going to deal with all of that anyway.
The only thing that I would like to include that to make sure that the pool equipment and the generator is properly screened.
right.
Okay.
And should I say something?
Yes, Nancy.
Noise and light. Light on the pool.
Well, there's no light. We're not being shown any lighting on this application.
I know, but we are going to ask the Architectural Review Board to review how they can mitigate any light. I mean, a lot of pools have lights, and that would be pretty obnoxious to the neighbors, I would think.
Well, that would be part of their normal review process, I think, right?
Right.
Well, I don't know. I'm following what Elise mentioned, that we could have some stipulation on this. things
You can
that we,
certainly ask the BAR to be cognizant of the impact to the neighbors, including screening, noise, light.
right,
I'm sure they will anyway, but I'm just saying that if this board has concerns or comments and would like to inform the BAR of those concerns or comments, it's perfectly reasonable to do that.
I would agree with Nancy. I think we should add that because in the past, as we know, the bar has punted on issues of lighting at times and pushed it off to our board, which was inappropriate. And so I think they need to be cognizant of their responsibility and take ownership of that.
yes, agreed.
Agreed.
If I may interrupt for a second, can I just clarify Mary and Nancy's vote because I couldn't hear clearly? Were they both yay or was Nancy nay?
We were just voting on the, we weren't.
I know, but prior to
voting
it, what you
on the
just,
application.
when you did the roll call,
The roll call was for,
Approval.
no.
Yes,
Have we voted for approval?
Yes.
Did I miss that?
you responded with, I think it was yay, but
You
I
did respond with yay.
okay, that's what I wanted to know.
That's what I thought. I thought you responded with yay.
I just couldn't hear it distinctly, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Actually, Desiree, I will say nay.
Okay.
Sorry. I just want to keep with my history of variances.
And I don't know whether we officially heard from Mary.
I thought I heard Mary vote a yay.
Okay.
I guess in the future, what we should
You
probably
did,
do,
you did. I voted yay.
Okay, good.
I guess to make it's tough when you're on Zoom. I
Here,
think in the future, it might be a good idea to just say, when you vote your roll call, you'll just say Nancy, yay. I mean, you'll just say your name and then clearly articulate, or just say yes and no, which is a lot easier to hear through
Right.
microphones and stuff.
A and nay is too close.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes and no is fine.
We are all challenged by Zoom at times.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Desiree.
Okay, so I will include in the resolution just comments to the BAR that the BZA wants them to be cognizant of impact to neighbors, including screening of pool equipment and generator and impacts of noise and light. I'll just make that comment. And of course, I'll circulate the resolution to the chairman and the board before it's actually signed.
Okay, and that they need to make the correction on the spa that the table needs to match the setback on the drawing.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to close this part of the meeting. Correct?
So
So
moved.
move.
You can just, this is over. You don't have to necessarily close your review of the application. You can just move to the next application.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Jake, I'll be back in 1 second. This is all too exciting.
John, what I don't have is I have the Denbergs seeking relief from the front yard setback in order to construct a screened-in porch. What I don't have is what what the notice was. We typically usually read the notice, but I don't think I saw the notice.
I have the notice.
You have the notice? Well, Elise, will you read the notice?
I think I have the notice.
I emailed
I
it. to
I just have the agenda.
Well, John, if you have it in front of you, go ahead. I mean, I have
everyone.
it.
I'd have to pull it off the computer. Hang on.
Okay, I have it. All right, so this was a notice published in the Times Herald, duly noticed in the Times Herald Record, that the zoning, the Board of Zoning Appeals of Tuxedo Park is noticing the application of the Denbergs with the tax map, the address, etc., seeking relief from section 100-8 front yard setback, where the required front yard setback is 75 and the plans submitted indicate a setback of 55 feet 2 3/4 inches, which requires a variance of 19 feet 9 1/4 inches. So it lists that the application is available for review at the Village Hall, and that the public hearing will be tonight via Zoom at 7 p.m. So it's a duly published notice. And John, you would just let us know if the affidavit of posting has been submitted.
Yes, I received proof of mailing and also proof of receipt by the neighbors.
Okay.
Okay, so as the applicant, are you going to present?
We can put it on our screen.
Can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yep.
Let's do the drawing, the BZA drawings first. So
Hold on. This one?
yeah, let's try that. Okay, can everyone see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So our lot is in a tricky lot. We actually have 2 acres of property. One is on one side of Turtle Mountain Road and another is on this side of Turtle Mountain Road. Our house was built in 1890, so the whole house is really not compliant to that small Turtle Mountain Road. So that is why we have to come in front of the board for a variance, because where we're going to put the screened-in porch is this area right here. So you can see that the setback is only 55 2 3/4, but that's actually runs along the front of the house. So it's in keeping with the house. If anybody wants to see the site plan, we can pull that up after this. I just wanted to show you this first. So this is where we need the variance. This 55 2 3/4 is the distance to the front of the porch where we'd like to put it. I'm sorry, right here.
Does this circle the pool?
It is. This oval here is,
Oval.
yeah. And then underneath here, I'm sorry to switch that on you, is the chart. I don't know if you guys can see this unless I have it up. Can you all see it, or do you want me to go back to the map? Everything else is complies with the exception of this this setback right here.
Okay, so you have one variance request of 19 feet 9 1/4 inches, and because your setback is 75 feet is the requirement on your property, and right now it's 55 and change.
Correct.
Correct.
Mhm.
And currently you have a patio there now?
Correct. We have a stone patio that is, it runs from right where we would start it to right here, right? It basically runs the length of the house and it ends here. So it's an existing flagstone patio. And then there's a retaining wall right here that's already footed. It's about, I don't know, about 5 feet high. And that's where we would, those footings would be the stone wall would be the support, part of the support for the screened in porch. Would support the roof.
Do you have, I mean, I have your other drawings, your architectural drawings that show this. Are these the only two drawings that you're gonna just present, or?
I also made a video. I don't know if anyone's interested in seeing it.
Sure, why not?
Was that music?
We're not doing
Few
anything
houses
else.
up here on Turtle Mountain Road, so
Mhm.
it's a very, it's a very quiet street. So I just,
Can you-
so
yes, someone think it's it?
can you see the video?
No,
No.
Okay,
No?
no, so you're gonna have to share a screen it somehow. Is that it?
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay,
Want me to start it?
so that's
So-
the pool.
yep, and as you're going up Turtle Mountain, it's kind of like a, I don't want to say a peekaboo house, but
Stop it.
so here's the pool. Here's all the screening from the pool. And back behind this tree, I'm going to pause it here. Back behind this tree, we're keeping this tree. This tree has not bloomed yet. This is a weeping beech. And then we're going to try to partially keep this boxwood. So the structure would be behind this white tree, behind this weeping beech. And then as you continue on, you know, we have a big Japanese maple. So really the angle of the structure really doesn't become apparent until you kind of get to, well, about our driveway, which is, it's coming up right about, well, not even there. So there's the beginning of our driveway. So then the structure would be back behind these two. From the most visible place, the structure, we're going to keep these two items. So the structure would be behind this. And like I said, that weeping copper, which is right here, really fills in beautifully once it starts getting leaves on it. So that is the video of coming up the property. And you can see that our house is relatively close to the road. But, you know, again, this was 135 years ago. So not much we can do to change that. And then I can show you the plans if you want to see what it'll look like.
I have them.
Oh, you do? Okay. So
Hold on. Let me just get it
They're
on.
very attractive, I might say.
okay. So in trying to keep our house is kind of like a farmhouse. So the architect was very much trying to keep this line in line with this dormer, and particularly this dormer to give it all symmetry. What she doesn't have here are all the big plantings that you saw in the video that are in front of this structure. So as much as this structure looks like it would be quite visible, it's actually quite difficult to see from the road or anywhere else, because behind us is 30-foot rocks, and from the south and from the north, you can't see it at all. So the only visible place, she doesn't have the trees drawn in, so the architecture review board could see the details of the porch, obviously. So. And then this view right here is if you're sitting in the pool looking at the house. It's right here.
Do you want us to keep this open or can we shut this?
I have them.
You have it?
Well, I have these plans, your
It's
plans.
fine. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll stop sharing it.
Elise, do we, I see we really don't have any public here.
Well, you would make a formal announcement that the public hearing is open. Is there anyone wishing to speak? And when you hear crickets, then you'll take a
All
motion
right,
to
I'd
close.
like to make a motion if there's anyone in the public to speak.
Crickets, crickets.
Crickets, okay.
And so now you'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Questions from the board? I have to say, Seth and Laura, yours is a little bit easier,
A lot.
a lot easier.
It's very pretty, actually. Mhm.
Yeah, it's very pretty.
It is.
Thank
All
you.
right. And I'm surprised it took you this long to build a screened-in porch. You must like mosquitoes.
We don't. We're so done. That's the problem. And I refuse to spray chemicals. So we've gotten to the point where it's really hard to sit outside between the
Well,
sun.
I honestly, I use now, as starting last year, we use Mosquito Joe,
Mhm.
Yep.
and it works.
Yeah.
It does
The guy
work.
that comes around and kills the mosquitoes?
No, that's not a good idea. These people don't want to do that. Jake, I have one comment. I think it's a lovely addition, but I think that we should, if we grant them the variance, I think we should stipulate that they and no subsequent owners can glaze in the screen porch. In other words, enclose the screen porch. That this should be.
I'm actually
a
happy
screen
you're
porch.
saying that because honestly, we really do want a screened in porch. We don't want an addition. We want to keep this quite, I want to feel like I'm outside. I just want to be protected from the sun, particularly, and the bugs. So I'm very happy to not make an addition and keep it as simple as possible. So I'm in favor of that.
Elise, can we comment? Can we do that, or?
I don't think so.
Right, ours is
Actually,
not, that really becomes
Yeah.
a DAR issue. Ours is just the variance part of it.
Yeah, you're allowing a structure to be put with, in a certain setback. And if a future owner or if the Denbergs wish to fully enclose that, then they'll have to go back to the BAR.
Okay.
The variance will be there for that structure.
Okay.
Sorry, Nancy.
Too bad.
I guess it's time we go through the 5 factors quickly.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would do that, yeah.
All right, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance, and that would certainly be no. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the government to pursue other than the area variance, and in this, not to have a screened-in porch, I would say that, it's negligible. Whether the variance is substantial, I would say that this is not a substantial variance. Whether proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood, I don't think it would. and whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, which consideration shall be relevant to the decision of the Board of Appeals, but not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Number 5 is always self-created, all right? So, but you know, there is no reason that this should not preclude the granting of the variance.
And
Right.
I would just note for the record, Mr. Chairman, that it's already a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming lot, so that mitigates that self-creation to some extent.
So noted. You got that, Desiree?
Yes, I have.
Where Desiree?
I would then like to do a roll call to approve the variance, granting of the variance to the Denbergs.
You'll need a
Gary?
motion in a second.
So move.
Motion,
Yeah, so move. And yes, I do approve.
Second,
Who seconded? Nancy? Okay.
yes,
second. We're gonna get a yes vote out of you, Nancy?
yes.
All right.
It's like pulling teeth.
And there was
Gary?
a yes vote from Mary as well?
Yes.
Yes. Gary,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jake, yes. You're so approved.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
guys.
much.
All right.
Great, thank you.
Okay, have a good night,
Have a
everybody.
good night.
Night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Right, thank you.
I'd like to, do we need to close the meeting, or is there any other discussion that we need to have, or?
No, I will draft this resolution and then circulate it. And then you would just, unless the board wants to discuss something or there's new business, you would just make a motion to close the meeting.
There is one other notion of somewhat of new business. Dave and I interviewed with Campbell Langdon for the position of replacing or trying to replace Mary, which is
Impossible.
irreplaceable.
Isn't he my neighbor? on the
Yes, he
other
is.
side? Oh, he's terrific. I really
Okay.
like him.
Now, just as a little sidelight to that, the mayor put out a little notice that, you know, that he seems to be wanting to take control of everything. I will have a quick conversation with him that, you know, typically it's been, and Mary, obviously you can give me the historical perspective of it, is that it is really the board gives the mayor a suggestion of someone that they would like to bring on the BZA, correct?
Right, nominates.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Okay.
then sometimes it came from the mayor. It
I
did.
did, okay. I mean, typically, I know with Houston, I know that we kind of, you know, solicited an applicant and then sent the resume over to the mayor to
Yeah,
then get approval from the Board of Trustees.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's, and sometimes he actually, but the mayor did sometimes suggest people.
Okay, okay. So that's not out of the ordinary then.
No,
Okay.
no.
I think this is different, Jake, though. He was saying that he was going to interview
Right.
everyone that was put forward.
Everybody.
Yeah, well, I think what I'll do is I'll kind of give him a call that, you know, that you and I have already interviewed Campbell, and we'd like
Yeah.
his, and if you could, so we could move quickly on this, if you could get his resume into me and I could get it over to David.
Yep.
I don't think it's atypical to have the mayor interview him, meet him.
No, I'm
I
sure,
think that's actually
he wouldn't have a problem meeting the mayor.
No,
Yeah.
and I think that's very typical,
Okay,
you
okay.
know, especially if the mayor doesn't know him.
It is the mayor's appointment under
Yeah.
the law.
Yes, I know. I mean, that's the way that the I guess the the law is written that way.
But he's a terrific guy.
Well, good for you, Dave, for finding somebody willing to do it. That's
I had to
good.
twist his arm, but he's okay.
I bet. Tell him about these long nights.
Yeah,
And on Cinco de Mayo, no
I know, I
margarita.
know.
I
Yeah.
thought maybe you were gonna.
Oh,
It's
where's
all the way
the
to, it's all the way
margarita?
to 8:14, you know, an hour and
Yeah,
14 minutes.
we still have time to start.
I was at a village board meeting last night as their attorney that ended at 11:30, so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I know like Michelle with the town, there's like drag on and on and on, you know, it's just, you know. An hour and 15 is, I mean, this is one of our longer ones, but. All right, then I'd like to make a motion to close the meeting. And then you can have your Cinco de Mayo cocktail.
Ooh, so
Cheers.
moved.
Second.
All right.
Second.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Talk
Bye.
soon.
Bye, Desiree.
Good night, Nancy.